I apologize for people who don't want to see this, but I figured it's very little I can do being one person, but there is something I can do, and so I'm going to try. I have already spoken with I shouldn't say spoken with, I have written a letter to and mailed to my representative about this issue. This is about the well-known SOPA bill, the Stop Online Piracy Act. It's actually several bills, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to go into the gritty details because I know most people don't like getting into that. If you've watched my reviews, you know one of the things that I try to do and that I'm interested in because I'm something of a vaguely OCD type person, anyways, is I like to be very organized. I like to be very well informed. I like to think about things as much as I can. I like to analyze things as much as I can. And this bill terrifies the unholy hell out of me. These bills. Sorry, I need to keep saying it properly. Now, I want it stressed that online piracy is bad. Okay, I'm with that. I get it, but that has nothing to do with what these bills really has to do with. And I'm going to summarize why I personally think this is a problem in as simple a way as I possibly can. I've thought about this long and hard about how I want to put this out. These law, most society is founded upon the concept of law, right? What is law? Law is something that is dynamically interpreted based on the individual you're dealing with at the given point in time. Okay? That's important. I'm going to give you an example. If you get pulled over and you were speeding 1 mile over the limit, right? Now, the law in your given area may or may not say what exactly is to be dealt with that, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is the precedence is set for that law to exist, so law, as of that moment, is defined by the cop you're dealing with. And he may let you go. He may let you go with a warning, he may give you a ticket, he may give you a big ticket, he may pull you in. He has the ability and the right to do any of these things. It is dependent upon his personal interpretation, his dynamic interpretation of law. You with me? Now, forgive me if I sound like I'm talking a bit extremist, because obviously most people aren't really going to go to such extremes. But you have to understand that they can. This is important. Precedence. All right, so bear with me. Let's say he does in fact, take you in. And so, what is the definition of law? Definition of law is the next person you deal with down the chain, the person who handles your case, the person who takes you in and processes you and puts in whatever it is into the system for whatever it is your crime was, or if you did a crime at all, right? That person is now interpreting the law, and that is what the law is to you at that point in time. Okay? What about the next step up? Let's say you actually go to court. And now, I don't know if any of you have actually dealt with the legal system. I had to for some legal rights with my daughter several years back. But most courthouse scenes are not even remotely like what happens, you see in the movies or TV shows. They've got a line of like 20 people here, and they just go down the row with you one by one. There's no jury. If you get to the point where you actually have a jury, you're at like the seventh step of the court. So, moving on. So you have that first court meeting, and there's a judge, and there's someone who is generically representing you. He probably doesn't even know your name. He just glanced at your case file. So his interpretation of the law affects you, as well as the judges, as well as whoever it is who's generically prosecuting you. These three people are now defining what the law is for you. And it just keeps going like that. Let's say you fight it for whatever reason. Let's say you think it was unjust. The next court meeting, the next judge you deal with, which probably will be a different judge, and your next defense, and your next opposition will be defining the law. And none of these people, with exceptions obviously, but none of these people are guaranteed to be interpreting the law the same way. You understand me? Law is defined by the individual who is interpreting it at that point in time. And what that means when you have a law that is so vaguely defined as this one, as this one that they are trying to put into effect, it means they can interpret it however they want. And if you try to, and they will count on the fact that most people, and this is true, most people don't want to deal with the hassle of fighting something like that. Some people do, and I'm with that. I'm one of those people. I do not like being pushed around and bullied. I never have. It's what my mother taught me. But some people just don't want to deal with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they don't want to deal with that. And what that does is gives them plenty of targets to go after. I mean, it's like the whole refund rebate thing. Anyone remember that? There was a big deal that a lot of companies did about a decade and a half ago where you buy this thing for $30 and you mail in a rebate and you get your money back. They did that because so few people would bother with the rebate. It just wasn't worth the hassle for the $20 or the $30 or whatever. It just wasn't worth it. And so they got you on that. This is the same type of concept here. All they have to do is go after website B and website C and website D, and of those three, statistically speaking, at least one of them is probably not even going to fight it. They're just going to be like, all right, we'll stop doing this, or we'll shut this down, or whatever. They could shut the website down if they actually wanted to, because this law is so vaguely defined that it allows that. But moving on. So, on top of all of this is the precedence thing. I really want to talk about this because law is also about precedence. Law is about what has happened in the past. How did we do this in the past? I can't remember the name of that movie. It was a beautiful movie, and I can't. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It was a guy who was having real issues about this car alarms, and it was bothering the heck out of him, and nobody was dealing with it, and so he campaigned and blah blah blah, and he ended up upsetting a judge because he was doing the car alarms, and he went into the court and he said to the judge, this is ridiculous. Don't you understand? Didn't you feel I was assaulting you? Didn't you feel this was an assault upon your person? And the judge said, yes, I did. And so he lost the case on purpose because it set precedence. And I know that's a movie, but you have to understand that is how it works. Once precedence is set, anyone else can follow suit. That's how law works. That's why law branches as the last several centuries have gone by, here in the United States especially. That is how our law has branched. That's how it's moved. And so by enabling them to have the level of control they potentially could have that these bills are trying to enact, then they can start going after more in the future. And that is really what worries me more than anything else, is the fact that there's the possibility that this is just phase one, I've actually read the bill, as you might imagine, given my personality and the way I am, and I encourage you to, if you have the time with it, and if you have the technical expertise to understand just how incredibly stupid it is, because these people have no idea what they're talking about, and they're doing it on purpose. They are vaguely defining it on purpose, because that gives them a greater reach. And yes, any number of those reaches could be fought. I've been over this. Any number of the things they try to reach out and do with that bill can be fought. But, how many people are going to bother with the effort? And then once the precedence is set, and once they realize they can get away with it, they're like a little kid. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to sound insulting, even though I am actually upset about this issue, but you have to understand, these people are just people, and like all people, they tend to think in terms of a little kid. I admit that I do myself. What do? You push yourself to the limits that you can reach. You try to test your boundaries, right? That's how it works. And it's not necessarily a childish thing. It's just reaching out as far as you can. And then sometimes you get burned, and then you pull back a bit. And they're going to just keep pushing this as far as they can. And we need to stop them now, right here, before precedence is set, before this goes any farther. And it is my honest hope that we, the people, do successfully stop them, because this is not a good thing. I've heard a lot of words said about this, that it's not constitutional, that it's not democratic, that it's against our freedoms, and all of these things are, in my opinion, defined by the simple words that I say now. This is not a good thing, and it needs to be stopped. I do hope you, if you're watching this, have made some level of effort, even just writing off a letter or emailing your representative or your congressman and saying, please, don't do this, please, I am in opposition of this. Just something, anything. If you're the kind of person who uses a phone, call. I can't do that personally because of my hours. I wake up at 8 p.m. every day, but please, do something. This is my honest request. I'm sorry if I'm tearing up a little bit, but we're at history here, people, and we're about to turn the page. They're voting on this for the first time in 2 days, So, turn the page.